Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Ball Up Top, your weekly women's basketball podcast from us here at No Cap Space. Tyler and Andrew holding it down for you. And before we get into draft grades for every single team, as we have the dust has kind of settled here within the WNBA draft, got a couple things to tell you about. First off, as always, home field, get your merch, No Cap 15, the women's basketball collection, all across the board. Get your merch, get ready. Whether it's a new player on your team that just joined and you want to go and rep their college as you go watch them play in the W, or just get ready for next college season already. Do what you got to do. Get ready. And, of course, if you're on podcast platforms, make sure you're rating, you're liking, you're sharing all across the board. And on YouTube, liking, subscribing. All of that stuff genuinely helps because I'll tell you on YouTube, we are on the way to 4K. We're approaching 3.5. 4K is like our next big goal, and we are genuinely trying to hit it. So make sure, if you think you're subscribed, make sure you're subscribed. If you're not subscribed, then subscribe. Come on. And last but not least, Andrew, I will let you do this one because I love the way that you promo this part. I love this.
So on Substack, we have a paid Ball Knowers subscription tier. For those that want things like 3-round mock drafts, for those that want things like top 30 players in the portal and where they might land, insider information, like what happened in Tara Vanderveer's last years at Stanford. We got all that stuff on our paid subscriber tier on Substack, but we're about 4 subscribers away from 100 paid subscribers. When we get to 100 paid subscribers, folks, for those of you that have been following Shawnee for a long time and know her very well-documented, well-cataloged Sabrinian-esque ethical hate, you are going to get the origin of Slack Mamba, and Shawnee and I are going to argue about it. And if that isn't enough incentive, I don't know.
I don't know what is, because that is going to be cinema. I might not even be on the screen for that. I might just be like down here, like on the bottom, like before you get put up on stage, just listening. Like I don't even know if I'll be able to even wait for that to drop, because I will be so excited to get
this is like a kaiju fight of agendas.
No, literally, we just had Shawnee versus Greer. We might need another bet. We might need to figure something out with our friends at home field. Because Shawnee got to get her lick back somehow.
If you make it like a vote thing, I know I'm going to lose.
No, it can't be a vote thing. It might have to be like
Tony Reale. We're drafting you in.
I don't know. I don't know, man. We'll have to figure something out. It might have to be like a season-long a standing thing.
An around the horn style game. Yep.
I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. So, but if you have any ideas for that, leave a comment. Let us know. Like we're just vibing now. I mean, look, we are kind of in this middle period. The draft is here, which means as crazy the transfer portal is, this is kind of the turning point into the WNBA season. We kind of highlighted on our YouTube page just some like the general picks that we either really liked or maybe had a little bit of question marks around, but we didn't really dive into each team on a kind of individual franchise basis. And that is what we are here to do today on Ball Up Top. So I want to dive right into this, and we're just going to go here in alphabetical order. No, not like picks or anything like that, which means we are starting with the Atlanta Dream, who had Tina Powell from South Carolina and Taylor Thierry from Ohio State. These are a bit interesting. I know I had touched on briefly Powell on our first YouTube video, so I'll leave this one up to you first. With Powell and Thierry on their fits here in Atlanta. Obviously, new head coach, new regime, kind of just from a coaching perspective. Yeah. So new players down low, but on the perimeter, a lot of the same. What are you feeling about these two picks?
So they say in school a C is average, but as a B- student, I feel that probably is a better indicator of like where you might be at in sports parlances. I also think it's just like a little less harsh, to be like, hey, you have a C- for this draft. Because when you look at someone like the Atlanta Dream and what their picks are, you're constrained by what the ceiling can be, unless like 12 teams don't do their job and like the value of values falls to your feet, right? Like if I'm grading, B to A in terms of draft, I feel like I'm expecting to get like an immediate contributor once, twice, or maybe 3 times to get on that spectrum. Like a D or an F means that you took a massive swing that doesn't make any sense or you traded out of the pick. I feel like a C is a little funky because I feel like you need to mess up to get a C, you know? So I'm giving this B minus because that's what feels like average and as good as you could do given the circumstances. Tahina, as you mentioned in our last video, is really the ideal type of guard in a Carl Smesko offense, right? She's a great 3-point shooter, great perimeter shooter, a lot of energy in terms of moving off ball. She's willing to move off ball. She's willing to play on or off ball. And she's able to get open on backdoor cuts, easy layups. She's not really someone that drives to the hoop, but this is going to be a very analytically driven, like threes and layups type of team. So you're going to get exactly what you need out of her. Taylor Thierry, it feels just more defense length measurables. And also a degree of familiarity, because I feel like Ohio State and Kevin McGuff play a similar system to Carl Smesko, or at least what he did at Florida Gulf Coast, which is heavy press, get out in transition, shoot from the perimeter. So, yeah, like the best player you can get at round 2, pick 6, like I think Tahina's about as good as you're gonna do, especially for the type of shooter. Like Serena Sundell's maybe a better player, but she doesn't fit this team as well, you know? And I don't think any of the guards that went off the board after Tahina really fit this well either. So maybe she's a rotational player in year 1, which is why I can't give you the B or the B plus or the A minus. But I can give you the B minus because you did what you needed to do given what your circumstances were. And I think that's kind of bang average for the league. Yeah,
I think that's totally fair. I think my hesitancy on the Pow Pow pick is that, and I kind of mentioned it before, and it's not even anything against Pow Pow as much as it is what the Atlanta Dream currently have, is I felt like when you look at like they're pretty. I think I have questions about the construction of the team, but I don't know if they have holes right now. It's as much just like how do they work together, the players that they have. But from a positional perspective, they needed bigs, and they went and got those in free agency already. And so I feel like the one thing that they could have really used was like a true point guard. But to your point, like, do you go draft Sundell, who doesn't really fit the system, even though I think Serena Sundell, like if I had like a personal board, would be higher than Tina Pow Pow for me. Like, I don't think so, you know? So, like, that's where I'm kind of with you on it, where it's like, I'm kind of just cool with it. Like, I don't really have any qualms. I understand why both players were picked, even if I'm not, like, expeditiously moved by it. You know, I'm not, like, you know, incredibly. I will say, one player that I'm intrigued by is actually an undrafted player that they picked up. They picked up Maria Gokdang. And really? I like Maria Gokdang. And it's very
interesting pick.
That is, I think it's very funny that LA leaves Letitia be here, and then they go and get Maria Gokdang. It feels very, very similar players in that role. But like that Maria Gokdang just felt like a player, like you're 6'3" and you work your ass off. That is going to keep, like, if you could, like, you're going to get opportunities in the WNBA just on those two things alone. And I think that she has other assets on top of that. So that is kind of like one of the undrafted players. And there's one other one that has really kind of stood out to me that we'll get to later down the road. But Gokdang was just a player that I generally was like interested, like if she got drafted, and then if not, where does she land? In an offense that's going to want to play fast, and even with the bigs, I think if she can make this roster, and that is an if, because I feel like this roster is pretty well spelled out already. Like just from what the spacing of it. She can kind of provide an interesting mix-up at times, I feel like, within a Smesko system. So I'm interested in seeing if she makes this roster, and then if not, where she lands. Because again, the effort mixed with the height, it feels like you got to be somewhere. Like, and I'm a fan of her. So
there's going to be a place in the W for her somewhere. But to your point, I feel like Atlanta is high floor, mid-tier ceiling. Yeah, but the high floor is going to make it hard for players to get on the roster and get those rotational. So
So yeah, I'm cool with the C minus. Again, I'm not like incredibly moved, but again, I don't feel like there's anything wrong.
Damn, man, you really said C
B minus. Oh yeah.
You said worse than average.
Yeah. No. B minus is fair, because again, I don't think they did anything wrong, right? And so they're not punished. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Chicago. Look, we had talked about Haley Van Lith a little bit. Maddie Westbeld, I feel like, is a very interesting one because I see the vision. I see the vision of like floor spacing, still got size, like you really next to either one of your bigs, or even potentially on the floor with both of them, question mark, but probably not. I'm not surely no, I don't know where exactly I'm at. I like the Civka pick from what I do know about her, which I'm not gonna act like I'm incredibly well versed in Civka, but from everything I do know, I like that pick a lot. But again, we had kind of discussed the Haley Van Lith pick in our earlier video about like the story is fantastic, but like I think there's kind of key things that she's gonna have to improve on to be like the point guard of the future. Like if that is what they want from her, like as kind of Sloot moves on, if that's what they want for her, there's certainly things to develop there. But I'll leave it to you then. But you're kind of grading on here because I'm a bit all over the place with this one. I really don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna say B+ just because I like what they did in the first round. I feel like the second and the third round feel like depth picks more than anything else. Like I don't necessarily know if Maddie Westbeld is going to be the type of person that's going to sit on a roster and give you more than maybe 8 minutes a game, at least in her freshman year. Maybe that changes as she develops. Yeah. But those two feel like more depth-related picks, whereas those first round picks really feel like they are making a move to get them into the rotation now. Yeah. I like Asha Civka. I think she's been really high on people's draft boards for most of this year, but I think people are seeing her as like a pure 4. Yeah, and I don't think I see
I don't think that's it at all.
I think I see a Becca Allen like composite, right? Like she's not the same player as Rebecca Allen is, but I feel like she's going to be expected to fill a similar role as like long, lengthy wing defender that can shoot, that can be switchable from 2 to 4, 2 to 5. And still give you 3 dimensions of scoring, right? Right. Because when you have a player like her, that kind of has that like Euro type play to them, you can pair them with Camilla or Angel in the off minutes. So she feels like a third that can give you like a different spacing option, but has the size and the ability to be down in the post too if need be. Yeah. And then we go to Haley Van Lith, who we mentioned it in our last video. Great place for her to be just situationally between having Courtney Vandersloot as a mentor and having Tyler Marsh as your coach. Being known for developing guards in particular, Jackie Young being like arguably the most well-known example of this with the Las Vegas Aces. He played a huge part in turning her into the next phase of what she's become in this league. Haley Van Lith, size perspective, have some questions and concerns. Being hunted on defense, some questions and concerns. Offensively, I think she's more ready than some of her other college counterparts are, mostly because she can shoot the 3 and also is not afraid to attack the rim. And she's got pretty good court vision, plays the pick and roll well. I think she's a better natural athlete when Sabrina came into this league. And for me, that's the comp and the analog because they both played in that Mark Campbell-ish heavy PNR offense. So I think it's great. You're not asking her to be a starter, but the ceiling of what she can be, which is a starter, is tantalizing, to say the absolute least. And, I'll touch on it with Georgia Amore a little later. I don't love being under 5'6" as the game really starts to evolve into taller and longer guards that are like 6 feet up. But Arike, Courtney Williams, there's plenty of success stories in the league currently between the heights of like 5'7" and 5'9". Yeah. Haley Van Lith is in there. So I'm going to say B+, mostly just because I feel like the last 2 picks are fine. I don't see personally value that I'm not seeing, wow, they got great value at that pick. Yeah. Yeah. They just kind of, again, like the dream, feel like that's the type of player you select if that's the place you're picking at. It's less of a surprise in terms of where we projected these players. Right. So I think that's fair. Yeah, I think I'm in that B+ area too. Of again, I do think Civka is not like a 4 in this league. Like that, I definitely see the Rebecca Allen comp. And again, Haley Van Lith, I'm kind of with you on the concerns. I see. If Haley Van Lith I'm kind of on either end of the spectrum ended up on either end, I wouldn't be surprised. Like if it ended up bad, if it ended up very good,
Like I see the avenues for both. So like for that, like I lean a little more towards B, but like I see the vision too. Like I understand why you take this pick, especially at the end of the first round. Like again, like I think for me, like I'm kind of so clouded by the Serena Sundell stuff that like that like every guard I see, I'm like, well, that could have been Serena Sundell. But again, like I completely understand why Haley Van Lith got picked here. And so yeah, I'm in that BB plus range as well. Connecticut. I know you loved this Anissa Morrow pick. I do. For them. I honestly like when it there's like with the identity that Connecticut has had, and seemingly with their new coach is going to kind of continue to have in a similar vein. It'll be different, but similar. I feel like with like known for the toughness aspect, just kind of going right at you. Frankly, these are three players that are actually going to do that and are willing to do that and are willing again to like. These are three players that work their asses off, and like that is exactly what I felt like Connecticut was going for. And it have talent and skill on top of that, but like there's just like an underlying motor that all three of these players have that is kind of undeniable, frankly. And I don't think that's an accident that they all drafted those. We got some thoughts on Anissa Morrow in our other video, so kind of go check that one out. We also had your NoCastSpace WB.com article drop with some of your other draft thoughts as well, more kind of specific picks and overlying themes of the draft. So make sure you go check that out too. But for Sanaya and Rhea, like your thoughts here on those two picks again, since we had already hit on Anissa.
I think I want to trend towards an A- here. I know that this is a little bit controversial just because I think I'm higher on Anissa Morrow and Sanaya Rivers as prospects than others are. Sanaya, we know exactly what the issue with the 3-point shooting is. She does not shoot at a super efficient WNBA perimeter shooter clip. However, I think she's a great playmaker. I think she has great size, great length, great effort, great energy, great motor. And she's a playmaker at the very least. That feels like something, you can coach in the 3-point shooting. All the other stuff is things that go on between the ears. And that's Anissa Morrow's thing too, is I can understand some people's reticence because her size is a little funky. At 6'1", it doesn't feel like she can be a functional 4 in this league with the amount of height that we're starting to see. But it's also important to consider that her wingspan is as large as Nafisa Collier's. And that, to me, is where I see defense and rebounding and, shooting inside once you really start to hone that bag inside 5 feet.
Right.
That's a player. That's an all-star in this league.
Right? Hell of a player. Yeah.
And as you mentioned, all three players, big energy players. Rhea Marshall, not the most efficient interior shooter, energy player. Rebounder, relentless rebounder. All three very good rebounders, which feels like a Rashid Mazian staple. You saw that that's what Belgium was able to do as a national team. Emma Mieseman on that group, like Julie Van Loo, Julie Alemán, like that was a really good Belgian team. They almost they gave the U.S. a run in the FIBA Olympic qualifiers in Antwerp going into 2024. Yeah, that was the coach. Guy knows how to coach, and he knows how to get talent to play up to the best, that they can play. All three of them are really high ceiling players too. And all three of them are sponges. All three come with really high recommendations from their coaches. This to me feels like culture building. That's why I think it's got to be an A-, because you get the talent, you get a great value pick in Anissa Morrow at 7, and you get all the culture fits in the middle of a rebuild. These feel like three players. I don't know if Rhea Marshall will stick on this roster, possibly just because they don't really have one on their roster right now. Yeah. But those feel like three players that you can build a locker room around with a vet and Tina Charles, and assuming Marina Mabry is cool with being an active participant. Right. Open question, but that's for another pod.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think I was leaning towards A on this one, just because I think the value of Morrow at 7, like with the way that she was playing, she could have easily been 4 or 5, and in that range, it would have been completely fine with me. So to go and like get Anissa Morrow as your building block again, I had my concerns as well, that it was the size thing, like just not knowing where does she fit. And then I went and saw the LSU Texas game in person when I was boots on the ground, and like watching her just go in person, I was just like, I don't know where she's gonna be still. To be honest with you, she's gonna figure it out. like it just feels inevitable that like one way or another, Anissa Morrow is going to make an impact, and to get that as you start this rebuild, and Anissa Morrow is your foundational player, and a player like Sanaya Rivers who can add like the ceiling of Sanaya, like Sanaya at her best is a damn good WNBA player. And so I was leaning towards A on this one just because I think that there's some serious value, and like at worst, you have players that, as you potentially more than likely bring in as well, I think is kind of an important part, very flexible in what they could do. So like if next year you draft a guard, or even hell, if you even draft a 5, like both these players, like no matter kind of where you go next, and like these players can all be on your team for the next 3 years pretty easily, no matter how you build. Which I think is an important part as they kind of continue to figure out what comes next and where they end up in draft lotteries and with these next couple of years coming up. But I don't know if you know this player, Paige Beckers.
I've heard of her.
Yeah, Dallas did pretty damn good. Obviously, Paige Beckers is Paige Beckers. I mean, come on now. But and I know this is a point you were making as well. They killed the rest of his draft. I feel like they could have easily kind of phoned in after getting Paige, and nobody would have even like thought twice of like, oh, if nobody else made the roster from this draft class, but you got Paige, no one was gonna care. And yet they went and got players that have a very legitimate chance of going and making this team and making an impact in the WNBA across the board. So I know we talked about this one a little bit more extensively in our first video, so we'll go kind of quick hit on the grade here. But your thoughts on this draft class and where you would grade them?
A+. I mean, genuinely, not only do you get the franchise cornerstone, to me as like a big time women's college basketball reporter and writer and someone who really ingests that sport, dude, this is indicative of really good scouting. Yeah. I mean, these are all really good college players. Like, dog, Kurt Miller knows ball. Like, this is
he was a good coach. Genuinely,
this is a ball knowers selection, and maybe they don't all work out, but like these are all of the players that if you really watch college basketball, every single one of these players is really good. Like Isaiah James helped lead NC State to a Final Four. Madison Scott's probably one of the most underrated players in the SEC and helped bring Ole Miss to a Sweet 16 this season. JJ Quinterly is the former Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, who was a absolute pest on Caitlin Clark in the second round of 2 years ago. Now, it was NCAA tournament against Iowa in the second. Aaron Vonleh helped bring Colorado to a Sweet 16, and they ended up playing Iowa. She transferred to Baylor this year and helped Baylor end up with a top 2 finish in the Big 12. And they also ended up in that second round matchup against Ole Miss. Double machine, Aaron Vonleh. Like, this is an amazing scouting, you know? And again, who knows if any of them besides Paige work out. Personally, I think Madison Scott's going to be on this roster for a long time. I think JJ Quinterly is going to be on a WNBA roster for a long time because defense travels. Those two players, excellent defenders. The offense will come in spurts. I think JJ is kind of like Serena Sundell in that the three-point shot isn't super efficient, you know, to the WNBA level, but she can shoot it. And if that develops, you already have everything else. And so, yeah, this draft got me hyped, bro. This is such a ball knowers draft. Chris Koklanis being a college coach this year before becoming the head coach of the Dallas Wings, it really feels like he took his scouts, like his personal scouts that he at USC. It feels like he took those scouts and brought them to the WNBA with him because this is absolute ball knowledge. I love this draft so much.
Yeah, it's genuinely crazy in the span of, I don't know, like even just this calendar year, right? Like since free agency and whatnot, the vibes of the Dallas Wings from, I mean, just as far back as you really want to take it, honestly, like the vibe change for what is going on in Dallas from an organizational standpoint with investment, but also like the team building and there's like some genuine like sensibility, frankly, happening like with like the way that it's being built. It's one thing to get Paige Beckers. It's another thing entirely to be able to build a team around her. And it seems like they are doing everything we'll see how it works out, obviously. Like, and we'll see like how what they actually are able to hit from like what mark they're able to hit when it comes to playoff seeding and so on and so forth with those type of things. But goodness, it feels like they haven't taken many missteps, if nothing else.
Yep.
And we'll see how far that is able to take them.
I will say this before you go to Golden State.
Yeah.
This is 2 for 2 now in terms of teams seeing a generational prospect and saying, we need to do better by them. That's a really good pattern to create in this league. Because
Absolutely.
there's only been 2 teams, in my opinion, in the last decade, that 3, I guess, that have seen a generational first rounder and said, we need to build stuff around her. Seattle with Breanna Stewart, who you could argue was already built.
Right.
The Las Vegas Aces, who after Asia Wilson began a longer build of creating through the draft. Sabrina Ionescu, who after year 2 to 3, Joe Tsai comes in and says, we're going to spend big. Indiana Fever with Caitlin Clark. Dallas Wings with Paige Beckers. I mean, this is a really, really good sign for the investment of the league and the fact that these owners care and understand. I don't know if the league understands, league ownership, the league's marketing. I don't know if they understand what they have. The owners very clearly do. That, to me, is a sign for the league.
Which is great. And I also love that the investment in these teams that have been around has completely set the standard as well. Because you see Golden State coming in, which we'll talk about now. Golden State, they're just already locked in. They got all their stuff set up and so on and so forth. Like, the standard has been set. So now going forward, everyone else really got to get their money up. And it seems like that's happening, but everyone else really got to get their money up. But let's talk about Golden State. I know we had kind of discussed Cheyenne Sellers, I think, mainly when it comes to this draft class. I want to talk about Caitlin Chen, though, real quick. Friend of the show. I think there is a very interesting and Cheyenne Sellers too, actually. Look at that.
Cheyenne Sellers too, friend.
Yeah, come on now. I think Caitlin Chen is actually in a very interesting position here. Because looking at the Golden State roster that they already had, they don't really have a true point guard. They have combos. And they have players that are capable of bringing the ball up, but not really a true point guard. Like, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't think we have any.
Burton's not a true point. I don't think. And I mean, I guess Van Loo. That's who I was thinking was Van Loo. She's probably the closest, given that she did a little bit of that with Washington this past year. But also she's turning 29 this season, so it's not as though that's like a super young player to build around.
Right. So I say that to say, I'm very intrigued at Caitlin Chen and the potential for making this roster. Which and I think that also kind of goes to what I kind of more assumed that Cheyenne Sellers is going to be involved in is a lot of ball handling duties with that. But again, that's also more a kind of a combo. I mean, Cheyenne can really do just about damn near anything on the court positionally, just with her size and everything. But Caitlin Chen went so under the radar amongst the UConn talk because of, I mean, understandably so, with that big 3 and the production that they were putting up, but such just like a pacemaker for them, and just able to when things were either up or down or too much, too slow, Caitlin Chen was there. And frankly, point guard is not the strongest position in the WNBA. And so when it comes to even if it's not like a long-term starter or anything like that, there is a benefit to having good basketball IQ, being able to play make, and being able to set the tone and either speed it up or slow it down when needed. And Caitlin Chen is absolutely capable of doing that, and capable of going to get her own bucket as well. I don't want to just put her in traditional point guard box, quote unquote. But I'm very intrigued for a 3rd round pick. And really, I mean, this is now going to be a conversation that we're having pretty much every draft with just how much depth there is to these draft classes and everything. But Caitlin Chen is one of the maybe most likely 3rd round picks that I think is going to make a roster. I think Serena Sundell will probably be my top one on that. Surprise. But Caitlin Chen is right there for me, just from what the Valkyries already have on their roster. So I think from a 3rd round pick perspective, that's incredible value to me in my eyes, and kind of filling a hole on this Valkyries roster early on.
See, I think that is a good value pick. I gave them a B just because I feel like Sellers is a value pick if she's healthy. and again, we're going off the hope that she isn't just she slid because of other reasons. And I think that just the Josite pick is a good one. It feels like a swing. And I get why they did it, right? Like this is a player who is 19 and has been playing professionally for 6 years already. Like that's kind of like it's like when Luka came into the NBA and people were like, "Can he adjust to the NBA?" It's like, dude, he's been playing against 30-year-olds since he was 16. Like that's just a Josite, except she's been doing it since she was 13, which is a heinous thing to think, honestly. But at the same time, I question the readiness and the ceiling. I get why they did it. It very much, all of these players, by the way, very much align with their vision. Like very heady, very cerebral, hardworking guards that that can and are okay with contributing in a variety of ways that go beyond just scoring. All three of these players have that. So, in as much as they got what they needed, I think they did. I like the value of Sellers if she's healthy. I really like the value of Chen. Maybe Josite does pan out as a really good player, but I think that's the thing that's knocking this from being a really good draft, because I feel like Morrow is right there for them, and I know that's not a super heavy position of need, but I feel like that was BPA, and that's kind of one of the situations where I think you can go BPA.
Yeah, I mean, if any team can, it's them. Frankly, like I just obviously have it only built through the expansion draft and everything. So I'm I'm with you on that. I don't hate that at all. Indiana Fever. I love Michaela Timpson pick. I love that pick so much. Talked about it briefly, but I love that pick because obviously as a franchise, you understand exactly who you think is the type of player, archetype-wise, that you want at your 4 position. And you have 2 of those players, probably the 2 best players of that archetype, in Natasha Howard and DeWanna Bonner. And both of them on the older side, realistically. So you go and get Michaela Timpson to just, like, train under them and just... So like I already saw, I think it was Natasha Howard was already like tagging her on Instagram, just being like, let's lock in. And if I'm a Fever fan, that is so incredibly exciting because Timpson can absolutely, to me, like just from like an archetype perspective, a build perspective, I mean, there's obvious places of improvement that can and hopefully will happen. But goodness, if you told me in hindsight that Michaela Timpson ends up being like a long-term starter on this team and like in that position, like as development happens and like again, not immediately by any means, but if you told me in 10 years that she ends up being the starter next to them long term, would not be surprised at all. And so I love like the timing of it, just from you don't need to come in and step in and do these things now, but when it's time, you will have every resource to have been ready. So we'll have to see if it pans out in that way, but the potential of it, I absolutely adore from that pick. Obviously a couple other picks as well, and I'll toss it to you for your general thoughts on the class. But again, Timpson was one of my favorite picks of the draft, just with the veteran fit in that way.
I do like the pick, and maybe a B- is like a little too harsh. But I guess I kind of look at it from like the same lens that I was looking at it from the dream perspective of, I don't really expect any of these players to give us a lot in year 1. I think Timpson is a really interesting long-term project with a lot of upside, as you mentioned. She very, very well fits. I think we had said it in the last video. We did like kind of like a Temi role where like she can run the floor. She's long. She's really athletic. She is a leaper, like jump out the gym, and just very explosive.
Like a 6'10" wingspan too, I think.
Yeah, dude,
it's
like
ridiculous.
She has that. Yeah, she has what people expected out of Temi running the break. I feel like Timpson can kind of do that. Bree Hall feels kind of like a Victoria Saxon type. I think I'm really curious to see, and we touched on it in our last video about like the South Carolina guard thing, which, while not a conversation, is being monitored. I'm really curious if Bree Hall has like that offensive bag that we've seen in spurts, or if she is just more defensive oriented. Can she be a 3-and-D player in this league, or is she kind of in that Dee Richards role where she's trying to still find that offensive game, but the defense is just so excellent. You're always going to be on a roster. It's just dependent on like how many minutes you can end up getting. Yvonne Ejim is another person I'm high on. Feel like she could grow into like a good understudy for Aaliyah Boston, but again, it to me is like a lot of upshot, right?
Yeah.
I love the potential. If I was grading these three on potential, it'd be like
For
B
sure.
plus A-. I think in terms of like what you need now, to be honest, I don't think they need a lot now. Like
that's why I think I'm higher on it.
Might pick for what they need, which is someone to fill the 10 role.
Right.
You know, and these two others feel like more like deep bench ads, if anything.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. Again, I don't really expect anything from these players this year. It's truly just a matter of in 3 years, are you getting anything from these players? And it's like this might be truly the most like hindsight is necessary class of
Very
any team.
possible.
But yeah, moving on. LA Sparks. Some kind of interesting picks here. Sarah Ashley Barker, Sanaya Fagan, and Leah Two King.
I know, there you go.
Leah Two King. I have been pushing this agenda. Leah Two King is going to be on a WNBA roster. Mark it down now. It's going to happen. Sarah Ashley Barker. So I had actually spotted Reagan Pebley at the Alabama-Oklahoma game in Norman. She got up out of there quick because I was going to go talk to her and be like, hey, what's going on? What
are you doing here?
Why are you in Norman, Oklahoma? But she bolted out of there before the game. I was like, okay, sorry. I apologize. But now, obviously, we know why. Sarah Ashley Barker is an LA Spark. I mean, goodness, I don't know where Sarah Ashley Barker ends up without that game against Maryland.
It's true.
And I don't, and that's not even like a knock on her because I think Sarah Ashley Barker has been an underrated player in the NCAA over the course of her career. But goodness, I don't know if we've seen many like on the women's side, especially like a March Madness moment, like propel a draft stock in this way. I just don't know if she was going to be that high before that performance. And again, I didn't even necessarily hate the pick. I thought she was underrated before. But goodness, like seeing her kind of get this respect is cool. And to see like a March Madness moment matter in this WNBA draft is cool. And so I like it from that perspective. Give me your rundown. I see you got them down as a B for the Sparks draft.
Yeah, I mean, again, good, right? Like home run. How much of a home run can you have at pick 9? Unless, sorry, froze up there. No, I'd give it a B because I feel like they're, again, are we judging on potential or are we judging on what you're giving us now, right? And if you are able to have Sarah Ashley Barker be an immediate bench contributor a la a Kate Martin for the Las Vegas Aces in certain spaces last year. Kate Martin wasn't an all-star. She wasn't an all-WNBA player, but I would say Kate Martin was like a solid B draft grade for the Aces last season, you know? And so I think that's kind of the lens I'm looking at Sarah Ashley Barker through, which is effectively, can you be a good, solid, like 6-woman rotational player type on this team that has Kelsey Plum, De'Erica Hamby, Rickea Jackson, and then by probably the all-star break, Cam Brink. I think that's what she can give you. Leah Two King and Sanaya Fagan, great rebounders, great defense. Love what they bring just on the back end, and I feel like there's so many shooters on this team already. They've indicated that they want to be a little more analytically driven. What are you going to need to drive the ability to shoot threes to satisfy that analytic criteria? Rebounds.
Yeah.
And you have one of the top 10 rebounders in the country in Leah Two King, one of the best positional rebounders in this draft class in Sanaya Fagan, and also a really good defender in the post in Sanaya Fagan as well. So I like Barker as kind of fitting that like 2-3 for them. I don't think I would classify her as a point guard. So she sort of fits like the combo shooting guard wing nebulous area that we kind of have reserved for shooters nowadays. That to me is where she is. Fits a need. Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah.
Good solid draft. B.
Yeah. Thumbs up. Congratulations, Los Angeles, for participating. Next, the Aces obviously did not have their first round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Your general thoughts here? I mean, obviously, friend of the show, Harmony Turner, I think could be a very, very interesting third round pick. And certainly, I mean, depth is always the issue for Vegas. I mean, it is kind of still the issue. It has always been the issue. I think that these are two players that I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing them on this roster.
Yeah, B+ for me, believe it or not. And the reason I say this is I think fit and value here really matter, and I think Aaliyah Nye has the potential to be a little bit more than just a rotational player for the Aces. You lose Kelsey Plum, you lose Kate Martin. Aaliyah Nye, I feel like kind of fits in that Kate Martinish role just from a scout perspective of what she would give to this team. But Aaliyah Nye is one of the best pure shooters in this draft. 45.5% from three this past year at Alabama. 3 of her last 4 seasons, she's been above 40% from three. And to me, I think that part of it is just such a huge component to what Vegas wants to do and how they want to do it. You know, because of that value, I think that, yeah, I got to go B+ with Vegas here.
Yeah, I have no qualms with that at all.
Plus also Harmony Turner. Like, you know, we said in the last video, it's like a very Deja Fair type, you know, pick. And so, yeah.
If I'm a mid-major guard, I know where I want to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, I mean, like you got Becky Hammond there. Like, I mean, I know where I want to go. Like, if you want a real deal opportunity, it feels like both these players are going to have genuine opportunities to go make the roster and to genuinely like have a chance to contribute to the roster as well, which I love. Minnesota up next. Kind of punted, it felt like a little bit on the first one. Probably a little draft and stash here.
Aubrey Griffin punted on the whole draft.
Well, you know, Aubrey Griffin, he's still coming back from injury. It sounds like, I mean, like it didn't seem like we had like any like real timeline. Obviously, she had played some minutes in the NCAA tournament, but still like never really kind of got back in the full swing of things. It felt like she's a player that like I feel like has all the intangibles to be a very good role player in the WNBA. She's got to get healthy. And so I like the fit for Minnesota with Aubrey Griffin if she is going to be picked in this draft. But for you, not an incredibly like I'm not really stirred up many emotions from this.
Yeah, it's a C. It's below average. You know, I feel like they punted on the second pick. Delia Daniels is good. She's fun. She was a really solid player at Washington. Again, question mark on if she's going to make the roster. Aubrey Griffin, as you mentioned, dealing with the injuries. So I think I don't even need to spend too much time on it. I think it's a C because it just feels like an apathetic draft. And that's not a negative thing when you have as many talented players as as Minnesota does, right? Like all they really need to do is run it back.
Pretty much.
However, this is your last year to get people on a below market rate rookie contract. You know, the cap is going to change. So I feel like to not go all in, you know, and I say this not knowing a lot about Anastasia Kosu, so like we could be wrong and like she could ball, right? Like she could be Cecilia Zandalicini and we might not know this.
Sure.
To be honest, she's the only Euro player I really don't have much of a basis. You know, like I don't really know much about them. I haven't followed the Russian league since a lot of like the sporting sanctions went in. And so I'm not super familiar with her. And to me, it just, I feel like it shouldn't be that way. You know, like if you're going to contribute, I feel like even the ball knower should like kind of have a little bit of an idea of what your game is. Feels like they punted on what might be a very financially important draft in the next year. So see.
Yeah. I don't hate it. Kind of similar vibes here. Feels like from the New York Liberty.
I think we can put like an NA next to them just because like end of the third. Like I don't have a data set for this. This is like if an NFL team had like 2 7th-round picks and that was it. Like how the hell am I supposed to? You know, it's a Euro draft and stash. Fine.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm with you. Phoenix did not have a pick. However, Tamir Poindexter was signed as an undrafted rookie.
I like that. I like that as a UDFA.
I am intrigued.
Yeah, I like that.
We'll see. But like when it comes to, like, they got a lot of players on big contracts. Like that, Alyssa Thomas you're never gonna hurt having floor spacing around Alyssa Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm intrigued just by the potential, just having a shooter on the court and making the roster. So that was the other UDFA that I was a bit intrigued by. We'll certainly have some grades for these two here. Seattle, first up. I love this draft. This is probably my favorite draft class of any team, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Dominique Malonga. I mean, if you are unfamiliar with Dominique Malonga, first off, go read the April No Cast Space cover story, by our one and only Andrew, where Dominique Malonga herself peels the curtain back, lets you in like on the backstory of her becoming not the female Wemby, but Dominique Malonga, as the coaches over in Europe were putting it in that article. Look, I've talked about Serena Sundell. Like, getting her in the third round feels incredible. And the ceiling of her and what she can be as a new age, taller point guard in this league, that can also defend. I adore it. You get shooting in the last two picks, which can never go wrong, especially if you are building your team long-term around Dominique Malonga and Ezi Magbagor, and presumably like a Jordan Horston coming back into the fold with that. Can never go wrong with more shooting. I love this draft, and I think they got incredible value with Sundell, and a potential. I mean, genuinely, if Dominique Malonga reaches her potential, we are talking about a potential all-time player. And I know I don't have to tell you twice about Dominique Malonga, but your take here and your grade for this draft.
Yeah, well, first off, on Malonga, we're not new to this. We're true to this. We have been Malonga truthers for legit years at No Cap.
So I put a tweet out, and I was like, hey, what are we calling ourselves? Like the Dominique Malonga, like agenda pushers. Mm-hmm. So I got a couple names here for you, actually.
Oh, hit me.
I think the one that was the most popular was the Dominators, which I'm like, I don't know, I'm not really moved by that. I got Malonganators, which is like, I feel like none of these are like, I'm not really moved by them yet. But like, there's an agenda that we're pushing here. Like the Dominiques, no, I'm not. Like, I'm just going through the replies here, and none of them really moved me. So comment section, I need you to let us know.
It's got to come naturally.
It does.
That's my only thing. It's got to come naturally.
There's someone said the Malonga Mafia. I was like, that might just be me and Andrew, but
yeah, exactly. I mean, people will see a vowel to end the last name and think the wrong thing about Dominique Malonga. Okay, A+ first and foremost for the Storm. Like we said, man, this could be a draft that is like the '84 men's NBA, but it doesn't have a Sam Bowie in it. Like, it might be
just Hakeem.
Hakeem goes first, and then Jordan goes second. And in this situation, Paige might be the Hakeem, and Dominique Malonga might be the Jordan. In the sense that you might look back on it and see that Dominique Malonga is the best player in the league, but Paige might be like the third or fourth best player in the league. And so you're, as a Dallas Wings fan, being like, would have been nice to have that one, but ours is still pretty good too. The ceiling on Dominique Malonga is crazy. I mean, if you saw the Storm's video that they posted on Twitter after the draft, where she's in the gym and like hits a flush dunk, and like all of the WNBA players are basically saying like, please don't dunk on me. Literally, please don't posterize me next year.
Hold on, I got it right here.
I'm sorry, like,
for our YouTube, like, this is nuts.
Yeah,
that's
like
easy.
I'm sorry. Listen, man. Caitlin Clark got reality is coming. Dominique Malonga is getting vets begging to not dunk on her.
Insane.
Like, to me, that is so crazy that we could end up having one of the most generational guards in WNBA history in Caitlin Clark. Maybe the most generational player in terms of ceiling ever in Dominique Malonga. And then another generationally all-time great guard in Paige Beckers.
And that's before we get
I was about to
into
say that's
the
not
potential
even what's
generational
coming next.
ceiling of Angel Reese and the potential generational ceiling of Camila Cardoso. Like,
Mhm.
preposterous.
And that's
Like,
just who's in the league now. That's not even talking
bro,
about
that's
the
just
next
the last
3
two draft
classes.
classes.
Like, come
That's the last
on, bro.
two
That's
draft
not
classes.
including
And
Asia or Fee or Stewie or come on, it's insane.
that doesn't even include Cam Brady Rakia, dog. Like,
No, seriously.
it's
Like,
crazy. But no, so Dominique Malonga to me, I've never been more convinced of a player's just like ceiling. You know, maybe not their greatness. Like, I'm not going to anoint a 19-year-old, but as far as what she can be and what you see on tape, the only comp I have to that is literally when you would watch Josh Allen tape at Wyoming, and in between the plays that made you be like, what the hell is he thinking? There were plays where you're like, oh my God, that might be the best quarterback in the league. Like, one day. That's when you watch like Dominique Malonga highlights, you literally go, yeah, that could be the best player in the WNBA in 5 years. So not only do you get her, you get Serena Sundell, and then you add in 2 really good shooters in Madison Connor, who's kind of like Allie Quigley, like Sammy Whitcomb, you know, just kind of run around and
you
like
know what you're here to do.
yeah, like you know what you're here to do, like hit the threes when you need to. And Jordan Hobbs is a very intriguing player on their own. They got not only need, they got BPA, they also got fit because like Serena Sundell feels like a player that could grow into a Jordan Horston, you know, and you have a Jordan Horston on the roster. So there's just, it's like this draft class is almost as if it feels like they're pipelining their folks like into
literally.
future roster spots. And those first 3 picks, at least, I don't know about Hobbs. Connor, her 3-point shooting may keep her in the league, but those first 2, they're in the league, I think.
For sure.
With one potentially being like a day 1 contributor. Dog, her and Essie is absolutely bananas.
Ridiculous.
It's bananas to me.
Yeah. Because it's interesting too, because we've seen what Ezzy has become and still is growing into. And it's the exact same like timing age-wise as where Dominique Malonga's coming in. And Dominique Malonga is already like steps ahead of like, you know what I mean? Like where Ezzy like truly had to grow into this. Dominique Malonga is going to be contributing in some way, shape, or form on day 1. I don't know like exactly what that role will be, but she was going to be on the court. She is going to like, there's going to be moments. We're going to see those flashes this year. I don't know how much that flashes like will come all together in 1 year. But she's 19. Like, she's already been playing against pros. She was in the Olympics. It's gonna get nasty quick.
It could get wicked.
It's gonna get nasty quick, and I cannot wait. Just know, no cap space. Told you. That's when it happens. We told you so. A+ there. I completely agree. Our last team, the Washington Mystics. They have an interesting one, and I think primarily interesting because they came into this draft and being like, "This is." They'll be in the next drafts too. Don't get me wrong. But they loaded up on this draft to really like kick off their rebuild. And
Smart money.
I've had questions about like the vibes around Washington, like with like we're gonna do this like the Wizards, and I'm like, are you sure?
You're like red flag.
Immediately, you know. So like that was already like but you go and get. I love the first 2 picks in Sonia and Kiki, and after that, I don't know exactly where I stand on it this yet, to be honest with you. I think this is the draft class that, if out of all of them, I don't think I've digested this one fully and know where I stand on it yet. So I'm interested in finding out where you're at across the board and with the totality of this draft class.
I'm going to go B+. Again, good ball knower picks in here. Like friend of no cap space A Green, friend of no cap space Sonia Citron, friend of no cap space Kiki Iriafen.
Hello,
it's the squad. Like that, like we are rooting for the Mystics over here.
We got a whole no cap space roster in this draft.
We're gonna do the friends of no cap space all rookie team this year. Will be a fun one. I know there's a lot of debate about what Sonia Citron is gonna be in this league. And I think that's like the only thing that keeps me from going to A- because I think some of the stuff is fair. But day 1 contributor, offer it. I think Kiki's going to be so much better in the W than people give her credit for. I really think she has the potential to be like one of those when we look back on it, we're like, wow, I can't believe she went at 4. Georgia Amore is the only one that I question a little bit, but I also think some of that's a byproduct of Olivia Miles deciding to stay in. Because say Miles is in the draft, what do the Storm do it too? Like, do they still go BPA in Dominique Malonga, which I think they would be crazy not to?
Yeah.
So now you've got Olivia Miles at 3, and you have the 4th pick. Do you go Miles and Sony? Do you go Miles and Kiki and risk giving up some permutation of those 3 and change how you approach those first 2 picks? Do you still go with Amor and let Miles fall to a Golden State or even further down past that into a pick 7 or pick 8?
Yeah.
Best point guard on the board. I think again with Cheyenne Sellers being drafted so low, maybe there's something that was in those medicals that we don't know. Past that, I love Lucy Olson as a player. Zay Green, I think, is going to have a place in this league.
I agree.
She is another just do it all player. So I think there's a place for her. I think it's just cool for Lucy Olson to get the opportunity, and maybe she does get on a roster. She's another one of those players that can do all of it. And typically, like those Villanova players, granted, Maddie Segrist is a little bit different in terms of pedigree and position than Lucy Olson, but those Villanova players have a pretty good reputation of like staying on roster spots. Like a lot of those Northeastern, like Big East, CAA, Ivy type schools, they find places for them. So yeah, B+. I think some good, some TBD, some and at the end of the day, Kiki's the gem of your class, and I think that enough warrants a B+. Because again, high on her as a potential player, but high on her also now.
Yeah. I mean, you're adding Sonia and Kiki to your roster. You're feeling pretty damn good. I will say, I think the thing that interests me most about Lucy Olson is she had a lot of point guard play at Iowa this year. And seeing about how that could potentially translate with just the ball, having the ball in her hands potentially in that role, as Washington just kind of needed a point guard. Obviously, Georgia Amor, obviously in that same role as well. But interested in seeing if Lucy can carve out a role in that way. Again, point guard might be the weakest position league wide, just like with the depth of it, how good it is. Like if they'd probably be out of the starting 5 positions, point guard's probably the weakest one. And so I'm interested in seeing if she can kind of carve out a role for herself. She's obviously got the scoring ability and everything. Like there's certainly a path for her to do that. So as a late second round pick, I am A-okay with Lucy Olson there and the potential of that. So generally speaking, not too mad about it. But that was the WNBA draft. An hour later, drafts, grades.
3 weeks until the regular season.
Goodness, get your sleep in while you can. We're gonna have plenty of content coming your way. First off, socials are about to be popping. Rashard has more like in-depth scouting for our ball knowers for this draft class. Transfer portal, Lord knows what's gonna happen. There's still some major names in that portal right now. Figuring out what's gonna happen with that. As you mentioned at the top, home field, No Cap 15, women's basketball collection. Go do that. Paid subscribers, ball knowers, get ready for that Shard article to drop. Our ball knowers tier gets it. We are 4 away from the Sabrina Ionescu dialogue.
Grudge match.
I am not prepared. But we are just 4 away from that. And then again, it has been an incredible month on the YouTube and everything. Since we started our lives with the tournament and all that. So we're incredibly thankful for your support. We are on the way to 4K. That is our next big goal on the YouTube. So if you're on the YouTube watching, make sure you're subscribed, you're liking, commenting, all that stuff genuinely helps. If you're on the podcast platforms, rating, commenting, sharing, all of that stuff, all genuinely helps. And it helps us continue to bring the best coverage that we possibly can to the women's basketball world. I think that'll do it. I think that'll wrap it up. Is that every plug? I think.
Everything. Wonderful ad read.
I think that was everything.
That's your endurance and stamina work.
The damn near pass out. But until next time, for Tyler and Andrew, we'll see you then.